So we look at that it should be used by the present generation and should also be available for the future generations. So, Jahapi, whatever process we adopt, okay, whatever process we adopt, it must be sustainable. Okay, so not only biological process, I should say any particular process that we adopt should actually be sustainable over here. So actually, Jahabi, whatever development takes place, so we try to make it as a sustainable development. So it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So actually, we saw the population has the world population has doubled from 1970s or so. So more than 6 billion people are there, and we have to meet their needs with the current resources. हमारे पास जहाँ भी renewable or non-renewable resources that are used करके we need to meet their needs. So not only it should meet the needs of the present, but also needs of the future. So this is what we are actually looking at over here. Now, if you look at the concept of sustainability, first it was proposed in 1970, especially by the EPA. Okay, so the National Environmental Policy. So they had a policy. So Sankar's sustainability, described around the create and maintain conditions under which human and nature can exist in productive harmony that permit fulfilling the economic, okay, social, economic, and other requirements. Okay. So, जहाँ भी हमें फॉलो करो, so we depend upon the nature for resources. So, what we need to do is we need to plan in such a way that we meet the requirements of the present generation as well as the future. Okay. So, as a sustainability we are talking about, so we are looking in terms of tinta pillars of the sustainability. One we are looking at is the economic development. What I'm referring to is social development. What I'm referring to is environmental protection. Okay. So whatever we plan, we need to look in to this particular pillar. So based on these particular three independent pillars, some of both good activities on a curve. So I think yesterday my age and concept. So I'll just briefly discuss about each of these topics of importance. Okay, these are topics of importance. Okay, under the three pillars, I will discuss about each of the things over here. So এটা থেকে টেবিলটা মনে রাখতে I will just go into the detail over here. Okay. So for example, আমরা দেখতে the environmental pillar আছে. Okay. Okay. Environmental is the first pillar. Environmental pillar. Environmental pillar we have something called ecosystem services. Okay. Ecosystem services. So what is the purpose over here? This emphasizes efforts to protect and sustain, restore the health of critical natural habitats of ecosystem. So basically, हमारा जहाँ natural habitat, so basically हमारा जो natural conditions of the natural ecosystem, so we are trying to protect, okay, protect, sustain, and restore. Okay. So not only protect, also to sustain so that it is available in the future now, as well as we are looking to restore it. Sometimes because of human activities, these are affected, so we are also trying to restore this ecosystem. So this is part of the concept of the ecosystem. Simply moving the individual topics of importance from some of them. ଏଠି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିପାରୁଛୁ is resource integrity. Okay, this is another resource integrity that we are talking about. So for resource integrity, waste generation is to be reduced to prevent accidental release and future cleanup liability. So So basically ତମେ ଜାଣିଥିବ ବହୁତ time ରେ because ଆମର waste accumulate ହଉଛି, especially I should say nuclear waste. Okay, nuclear waste. ତମେ ଶୁଣିଥିବ almost sometime back ଜାପାନରେ ଗୋଟେ ଇଏ ହରିକେନ୍ ଆସିଥିଲା, ମାନେ ସାଇକ୍ଲୋନ ଭଳିଆ ଜିନିଷ ଆସିଥିଲା, and because of the cyclone କଣ ହେଇଥିଲା ତାଙ୍କର ଫୁକୁସିମା I think is କୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ଯୋଉ nuclear power plant ଥିଲା ସେଥିରେ flooding ଯୋଗୁ ତାର ମାନେ there was some failure in the nuclear power plant. I think the water used was actually to nuclear energy extraction process. So that was not suitable for the common uses. So it has ସେଠି accumulate କରୁଥିଲେ. So basically ଏମିତି ଯୋଉ nuclear waste ହଉ କି ଆମର normal sewage ହଉ, ତ ସେଇଟା ଯୋଉ ଆମେ waste generate ହଉଛି ସେଇଟା ଯେମିତି କଣ store ହୁଏ ଆଉ ତାକୁ clean up କରାଯାଏ କି ତାକୁ treatment କରାଯାଏ so that I mean like problem ଯେମିତି ଆମର ସହରରେ ଯୋଉଟା ଆମର waste produce what do we do dump ତାକୁ dump କରାଯାଏ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ so that ତାକୁ ପରେ post process maybe landfill କରାଯାଏ land ମାନେ ତାକୁ ଖୋଳିକି so they dump it so that and cover it up so that it decomposes and that can be used. So anyway, the process what we're looking at is we don't want too much waste. Okay, so waste generation needs to be reduced. If this is reduced, then both these things get reduced. What else is accidental release? What is clean up liability wrong. Accidental release money either from our poisonous gases or release the money जो टॉक्सिक मटेरियल अच्छी है ना जो न्यूक्लियर वेस्ट जोटा हो जो टॉक्सिक मटेरियल सेटा रिलीज हो ये रिलीज हे गले हमको जो क्लीन अप करवा वो क्लीन अप माने ताको एनवायरनमेंट को रिमूव करवार जो रिक्वायरमेंट सेटा रिड्यूस हो हमें सुनते हो ऑयल स्पिल्स आ गोटे जिंस मे बी हमें primarily will also discuss about the oil spill. So oil is transported across containers and sometimes say जो ship दूसरे oil आते थे so there is a problem and the oil is released into the ocean. The oceans again it is released again it causes anyway that is a different topic. But here we are actually looking at the waste generation. जो भी हमारा the process also we are trying to reduce the waste over here. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଏଠି ଦେଖିବା ଆମର environment under ଆସୁଛି stressors. Okay, stressors. So stressors କଣ? So includes water pollutants, okay, water pollutants and greenhouse gas emissions are to be reduced. So ଏମିତି ଏଇ particular ଏଇ ଯାହା ବି ଆମର pillar ଅଛି ତା ତଳେ ଯାହା ଯାହା topic mention ଅଛି so we are trying to do in such a way that our natural resources sustainability is going to increase. So stressors include water pollution and greenhouse is to be reduced. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା social pillar. Okay, social pillar there is something called environmental justice. Social pillar here we have something called the environmental justice. Okay, so within the social pillar, environmental justice calls for empowerment of community overburdened by pollution to take action to improve their health and environment. So basically, because suppose I'm a good example of an industrial duty industry build ହେଇଛି so ଜାଗାରେ industry ମାନେ build ହେଇଛି ତା ଆଖପାଖ ଯୋଉ communities ଅଛି ଯୋଉ villages ଅଛି କି towns ଅଛି they might get affected because of the pollution, maybe air pollution or water pollution. So they should take action to improve their particular health and environment or the government should come up with policies to redress their problems so that unfortunately they will not be affected because of that. So ଏମିତି ବହୁତ ଗୁଡା ଜିନିଷ ଆମର sustainability ଅନୁସାରେ ଏମିତି ଆସେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମର ଦେଖିବା ଏଠି is resource security. Okay, resource security ଦେଖିବା କୋଉଥିରେ ଆସୁଛି so this is resource security under the social pillar. है so resource security means to protect maintain and restore access to basic resources है so this is the under the social pillar again, so resource security. ଆଉ ଇକୋନୋମିକ ପିଲରରେ ଦେଖିବା ଗୋଟେ ଇକୋନୋମିକ ପିଲରରେ ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ସପ୍ଲାଏ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଆମର ଯାହା ବି ଇକୋନୋମିକ ଆକ୍ଟିଭିଟିଜ ମ୍ୟାନୁଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଚରିଂ ହଉ ଯାହା ବି ହଉ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ କମିଂ ଅଣ୍ଡର ସପ୍ଲାଏ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ I mean it operates under supply and demand. So for the economic pillar, supply and demand uses accounting and market practices to promote environmental health and social prosperity. So we will try to promote, हम चेष्टा करेगा जो products are good for the environment and promotion. And so this is how you want to do it. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିପାରିବା okay, so supply demand, resource security, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିପାରିବା natural resource accounting. Okay, natural resource accounting. So natural resource accounting is ଆମର ଏଠି under the economic pillar ଆସୁଛି ହେଲା so natural resource accounting ରେ କେତେଟା terms ଏଠି we have so the natural resource accounting aims to improve understanding accounting of ecosystem services using cost benefit analysis ecosystem services which ଆମେ ଏଠି ପଢିଲୁ so this is basically to protect sustain and restore the health of critical natural habitats and ecosystems okay so जो इकोसिस्टम हो कि हैबिटेट हो जो बहुत critical in the sense it is affected by pollution maybe the endangered हो कि जहाँ भी some sort of there is a problem in the particular habitat or ecosystem of it. So natural resource accounting using natural resource accounting we are trying to improve these ecosystem services. So ये जो cost versus what do you mean by the cost and the prices? Yeah. Here it the cost and then we have prices. What do you mean by this cost and what do you mean by this cost? Also, so it obviously is I mean there is a product and it has a cost. Okay, so we pay that cost. Say an amount we use that. But in terms of environment, when we talk about cost, okay, so cost is the example of striving to develop waste-free processes. Okay, so cost for is striving to develop waste-free processes. So जहाँ भी हम processes हो, agricultural हो, industrial हो, for humans also the process हो, so we are trying that it should be waste-free. Just a form waste that is producible. If waste reducible, then this minimizes the needs of regulation treatment and disposal cost. So obviously आजकल जो इंडस्ट्री जो एयर मैंने कंट्रोल जो बाहर है तो गैसेस बाहर है so there is a particular law for that in the sense हमको treatment କରିକି ସେ gas ଟା release କରିବାର ଅଛି no it is not possible कि directly if a waste produce होगी तो directly release कर they have to do some sort of post processing to work on that to produce waste produce. So what you need to do is if you make it waste free, it should reduce need for regulation, that is to have laws regulating release or treatment. Okay, so treatment obviously cost both since air pollution could treat କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଆମ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡା ଏମିତି treatment processes ଅଛି କି ତାର disposal. So basically I mean ଗୋଟେ natural resource ତାର ଆମକୁ use କଲେ ତାପରେ ତାକୁ dispose କରିବା ଯେବେ ଯୋଉ waste ବାହାରୁଛି ତାର disposal ଆସୁଛି. So waste ହେଲେ disposal ହବ. If the waste is reduced then the disposal also decreases. So that is cost. Okay. So this you can explain it under cost. Okay. So cost. Then what we have is the prices. So what is prices? Prices refer to reducing risk for new technology through demonstration testing with community partners. So जहाँ भी हमारे नया टेक्नोलॉजी आसुची so we will try to make the people adopt. So हमारे जो sustainable technology so that we are trying to demonstrate to the people how I mean as much as possible we are trying to involve the people. लोगों को involve करेगा so that they will learn about these new technologies and they will adopt these technologies. So Basically, this is what I want to talk very briefly about sustainability. That ultimately, on the Java policy, we are trying to make our processes sustainable. ହେଲା so ଆମର ଯାହା ବି ଏଇ ତିନିଟା pillars ରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ ଆମେ topics of importance ଦେଖିଲୁ so each of them is very important to have sustainability in the process. So where does environmental biotechnology come into this? Okay. So the environmental biotechnology provides the means to achieve many of the sustainable goals. Okay. So जहाँ भी हमें discuss करूँ so it is, to achieve this environmental biotechnology is one of the ways to do it. So ଏଠି ମୁଁ ତିନିଟା example ମୁଁ ଦେଇଛି ଏଇ ତିନିଟା example ସେଥିଲାଗି ଦେଇଛି because ଏଇଟା ଆମ course ରେ ଅଛି and we will try to do that and correlate it with sustainability. The first amateur is anaerobic treatment. You know? So I hope you know aerobic anaerobic. So anaerobic treatment can capture the energy value of organic matter found in many used water. Again, from a term that's used water. ଯୋଉଟା ସିଙ୍ଗାପୁରରେ ଯୋଉଟା ୟୁଜ୍ କରୁଛି ଆମେ we are using that used water waste water କଣ ଆମେ ତାକୁ used water କହୁଛୁ so anaerobic treatment ଆମେ ପଢିବା ତା ବିଷୟରେ in detail so this can capture the organic matter in the waste water or used water okay so this can make the treatment processes energy generating okay which saves money for the operator and lowers society's use of fossil energy. So anaerobic treatment use करके हम organic matter काढ़ी पारिबा waste water ରୁ so this is energy generating so this produces energy which can be used for the treatment okay not only treatment हम society ରୁ ମଧ୍ୟ use ଆସିପାରିବ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଏଠି ମୁଁ ଲେଖିଛି anaerobic treatment also converts nitrogen and phosphorus okay so ଆମେ କାଲି ଦେଖିଲୁ କି ନାଇଟ୍ରୋଜେନ ଆଉ ଫସଫରସ ର ବହୁତ ଗୋଟେ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ରୋଲ ରହିଛି ବିକଜ ୱେଷ୍ଟ ୱାଟର ରେ वी फाइंड ନାଇଟ୍ରୋଜେନ ଆଉ ଫସଫରସ ର ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଫର୍ମସ ରେ ସେଟା ୱେଷ୍ଟ ରେ ଥାଏ so ନାଇଟ୍ରୋଜେନ ଆମୋନିୟମ ଫର୍ମ ରେ ଥାଏ ଆଉ ଫସଫରସ ସଲିଡ ଫର୍ମ ରେ ଥାଏ so ଆମେ ତାକୁ we have to extract in such a way that ଆମେ ତାକୁ directly we can use it for agriculture fertilizer. So anaerobic treatment, it is called what happens? It converts nitrogen phosphorus into inorganic forms, that is ammonium and phosphate. Okay, that can be recovered and used as feedstock for agriculture fertilizer. Feedstock, so feedstock माने तार starting material. Okay, so जो हमारा fertilizer जो produce होती है, starting material can be. Last, हम देखा is anaerobic and aerobic treatment can detoxify harmful chemicals. Okay, so this again is a very important benefit we have is detoxification. Yeah. So maybe taku ame alga process re kale both energy consumer as well as we don't have the guarantee that it is going to actually work. So either anaerobic aerobic treatment use करके we can do a detoxification of harmful chemicals and make the water safe for various uses. So এটা আমি again detailedly ଆମେ ପଢିବା see how detoxification is actually done. Detoxification of harmful chemicals. So ଆମେ ତାକୁ bioremediation ରେ ପଢିବା ଯୋଉ last ଆମର unit ଅଛି bioremediation xenobiotics so ବିଷୟରେ ଆମେ ପଢିବା so that's where the environmental biotechnology comes in. How better ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା role of environmental biotechnology. So also wastewater contains valuable resources. ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲୁ wastewater ରେ ଆମେ mainly ଦୁଇଟା ଜିନିଷ ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲୁ ଏକ nitrogen ଆଉ phosphorus ତା ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଆଉ ବି ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଏମିତି resources available ଅଛି wastewater ରେ. So the current जो treatment practices ଅଛି current treatment ଏମିତି ଆଜିକାଲି ତମେ ଜାଣିଛ ସହର ମାନଙ୍କରେ waste water treatment ଆଉ ଏମିତି ସବୁ facilities available ଅଛି so current treatment ଯୋଉଟା ଅଛି they actually discard ହେଲା so current ଯୋଉ methodology ଅଛି ସେଥିରେ ଏଇ valuable resources ମାନେ loss ହେଇଯାଏ so we don't want that we want that it should be used it should also be utilized. So today the choice of biological treatment, okay? processes must go beyond only meeting immediate effluent standards. In the sense, एबेकार जो law अच्छी हमारा waste disposal ର तार खाली minimum requirement satisfy କରିବା ଆମର primary target ନୁହଁ. Instead, a well-chosen process should accomplish the basic mission of good effluent quality. Okay. So ଆମର mainly ଆମେ କଣ କରିବୁ ଏ long term जो ଆମର sustainable need again ଏଇ term ଦେଖିଲେ is sustainable ଯାହା ବି ଆମେ process କରୁଛୁ should be sustainable ର ଗୋଟେ ଖାଲି ଆମେ try to just remember କି ଆମେ ଯାହା ବି କରୁଛୁ so this should be available for the present generation as well as it should be available for the future generation even with some treatment the waste treatment ଆମେ କରୁଛୁ that also must be sustainable also. And it is possible through our environmental biotechnology. Okay. So modifications to existing processes and the development of new processes should be channeled towards meeting the needs of a sustainable future. Okay. So that's what we are going to target over here. Okay. So this was all about sustainability, sustainable goals, and how environmental biotechnology is very important. Um,
Incoming call from Annie Mercy Product.
uh, so this was the uh, first part. I have a second slide where I want to briefly talk about the first unit. ଆମର ଏଇଟା just introduction ଏବେ ଆମେ କରୁଥିଲି ଆମର next topic ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଅଛି is microbial community. So ଆମର main ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲୁ ଏଇ particular material ତମକୁ ଯାହା ମୁଁ provide କରିଛି plus ଯାହା ଆମର ଆମେ ଏବେ ପଢିଛୁ is environmental biotechnology main tool is microorganisms. So we need to understand these microorganisms. Okay, so I will start off with the discussion about microbial environment. Then discuss further. Okay, so some syllabus we have this microbial environment where we talk about water, different types of water, and we talked about the biogeochemical cycles, especially whether I'm a nitrogen or sulfur cycle, which I'm but before I go into all of this, it is very important that we do a basic revision of the microorganisms that we are going to work with. So, ଯାହା ବି ଆମର microorganisms ଆମ ଏଇ biological process ରେ use ହଉଛି ତା ବିଷୟରେ ଆମେ ଟିକେ କଥା ହବା I mean, since then we will try to utilize each one of them. Okay. So, so environmental biotechnology applies the principle of microbiology, right? So, as you both environmental biotechnology is a toolkit. Okay? Tool is microbes. Simply for a person who is working on computers, laptop, or desktop, he uses that. So, in that case, in our case, it is the microbes. So, environmental biotechnology applies the principles of microbiology to solve the environmental problems. So, जहाँ भी हमारा problem होगी, so we are trying to use some sort of microbes or some of the microbial products to these particular solutions. So, ମୁଁ କେତେଟା particular applications ଏଠି ଲେଖିଛି. So, the applications of environmental biotechnology ଆମେ ସବୁଗୁଡ଼ା ଆମେ ତ obviously cover କରିପାରିବାନି, but we will try to look at most of these things. Okay. So some of the applications of environmental biotechnology ଦେଖିବା ଆମେ already କେତେଟା discuss କରିସାରିଛୁ, but ଟିକେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିପାରିବା ଏଠି. So the first one, if you see, is the first one, the treatment and resource recovery from industrial, municipal, Okay, municipal and domestic wastewater. I would, or you can call it as used water. ହେଲା। So ଆମେ ଏଇ ବିଷୟରେ ଟିକେ ଆମେ introduction already ନେଇସାରିଛୁ treatment ଆମେ କରିବା as well as very important is the resource recovery ହେଲା। So this is what we are looking at. So enhancement of the quality of drinking water. Obviously, this is a very primary target that we have to do. ପିଇବା ପାଣିର quality increase କରିବା, and then we have restoration of environmental, soil, water, and air contaminated with undesirable compounds. So ଯାହା ବି ଆମର ଆମେ କଥା ହେଇଥିଲୁ ଯୋଉ toxic material ଯାହା release ହେଇଯାଉଛି, maybe due to natural calamity ହଉ କି human activity ର ହଉ, because of that ଆମର जहाँ भी damage होते हैं environment को, so we want to restore that. So this again is an application of environmental biotechnology. how ଗୋଟେ ଆମର ଏଇଟା sustainable goals ରେ ବି ଆମେ ପଢିପାରିବା। Okay. Then we are also talking about protection and restoration, okay, of rivers, lakes, estuaries, and coastal water. So again, this is the water, okay, water resource, but we are actually looking at all the fresh water as well as ocean water resources. Okay, so if there are any contaminants, so that we will try to protect it from contamination as well as we can restore it from contamination as well. So basically, I think a प्रथम चारिटा point we will be covering in this particular course. But ଆଉ କେତେଟା ବି ଅଛି ଆମର ଯେମିତିକି prevention of exposure to pathogens to humans and other species. Um, uh, data will not be looking at uh, much, but then this also is part of something that the environmental biotechnology people also go over. I would about the production of environmentally benign chemicals, fuels, and feedstocks. So is a term actually. So this actually means so that it is environmentally friendly. Okay. Uh, friendly. Okay. So we don't want chemicals that are very harmful for the environment. We want it to be friendly. So friendly would mean कि if हम use करो सारा जो इस पर हम any waste की बाहर that should be easily broken. It should be easily broken down and reused. जहाँ भी हमको save हो. It should not be difficult for disposal of things. And last ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା implementation of sustainable resource recovery. So even though ଆମେ ଟିକେ initially resource recovery ବିଷୟରେ କଥା ହେଇଛୁ, so we want the sustainable resource recovery. Okay, so resource recovery in a sustainable way. Uh, um, so as well as utilization and the disposal practices. So ଏଇଟା ସବୁ ଆମର environmental biotechnical applications under ଆସେ। Maybe ଆମେ ଏଇ course ରେ ସବୁଗୁଡା ଦେଖିପାରିବାନି, but maybe we'll look at the first four or five, maybe the last two also we might consider, but we are not going to look at prevention of exposure by pathogens to humans and other species. So this is all about the applications of environmental biotechnology. Now, when you talk about uh, uh, how environmental biotechnology is different from other biotechnology or other disciplines of microbiology or biochemistry, or not biochemistry, but other biotechnologies, let's say industrial microbiology, or so how is it different? Whenever environmental applications are concerned, majorly environmental applications which are so, so these are generally always in mixed culture. Okay, so I am not sure if someone sort of lab କରିଛ like if microbiology କି ତାର lab କରିଛନ୍ତି ନାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ problem ଆମେ ବହୁତ face କରୁ with contamination. Okay, in this is if you are working with bacteria ତମେ bacteria କୁ culture କରୁଛ, you might have contamination with fungi. So uh, ଆମେ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁ that contamination ନ हो so that we can study that particular species. But whenever we talk about in the environment, it is always mixed culture. So every, I mean, like every particular microorganism in a particular environment is taken into consideration. So if I'm a wastewater deposition, we are looking at all the organisms, not a single organism. Unlike when you're studying a single bacteria or single fungus. ଆମେ ସବୁ ଗୁଡାକ ନଉଛୁ. So this mixed culture ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ it is open environment. ତାକୁ ଆମେ sterile, it's open and non-sterile environment. So sterile environment again, so we clean the surfaces with alcohol, ତାକୁ sterilize କରାଯାଏ. Okay, so it's not like that. It is in the natural state. It is open, non-sterile. So ଯାହା ବି ଆମେ କଥା ହଉ, we are talking about a mixed culture. It is open and non-sterile. ଆଉ ଯାହା ବି ଆମେ applications ଆମେ produce କରୁଛୁ, maybe it is for treatment ହଉ, wastewater treatment ହଉ, କି recovery ହଉ, okay, whatever we do it, the success, whether that particular method of success, whether it is successful or not. So it depends on three factors. Okay, so first is how the individual microbes with desired characteristics can survive in competition with other organisms. So it is not like the microbes use for it is working directly with the substrate. So maybe suppose we are talking about oil spill, जो हमारा oil spill है जाए तार recovery time में होता है. So they maybe we introduce some organisms to do the oil spill disposal. But in same case we have to see that it is how it operates with other organisms. ଏମିତି ବି ହେଇପାରେ କି ଅନ୍ୟ organisms ମାନେ ତାକୁ it will not allow it to grow. So always we have to see that ଆମର ଯୋଉ microbes ଅଛି it is in competition, always in competition with other organisms in that particular ecosystem or habitat. So always it is in competition. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ question ଆମେ ଏଟା ଦେଖୁଛୁ is that how desired functions can be maintained in complex ecosystem. So maybe the micro organism particular cycle to this. So maybe ତାର ଗୋଟେ pathway ଅଛି ଯୋଉଟା ସେ oil spill ବିଷୟରେ ଆମେ କଥା ହଉଥିଲି. So maybe ଆମେ target କରୁଛୁ ତାର ଗୋଟେ ଏମିତି cycle ଅଛି ଯୋଉଟା oil କୁ use କରିକି ତାକୁ break down କରେ. So whether that particular process is going to work in that ecosystem or not, maybe lab ରେ କାମ କରୁଛି, but ଆମେ ଯେବେ ତାକୁ natural environment introduce କରୁଛୁ, we have to be sure that that particular system also should work over there. Okay? So this is another parameter for success, whether it works in complex ecosystem. And then finally, we have the proliferation of undesired microbes can be prevented because some sort of environmental intervention କରୁଛୁ ଆମେ a particular steps that we adopt କରୁଛୁ, undesired microbes should be prevented. ସେମିତି ଗୋଟେ theory ଆସିଲା ଏଇ ଯୋଉ କରୋନା ଭାଇରସ situation ତ ଚାଲିଛି ତମମାନେ ପଢିଛି papers ରେ, ଏଇଟା କୁହାଯାଉଥିଲା କି there was some experiment, lab experiment କରିବା ଅବସ୍ଥାରେ there was some release of this coronavirus from that particular lab. So obviously maybe we don't want it to proliferate also to increase, to multiply. Okay? So we don't want that to happen. So the undesired microbes should not multiply in that particular ecosystem. So these jaha bhi hum karu, so ei tinta क्षेत्र parameters hame देखते. So it has to survive in competition. It should be maintained in the complex ecosystem. Now only undesired microbes should not proliferate. Okay, so these are some questions or some parameters for the particular success of a particular process also. ठीक है. So this was all the beginning of that. हमें ଟିକେ microbiology का introduction हमें देखिएगा, and the introduction for it we will talk briefly about the different biogeochemical cycles, carbon, nitrogen, and then we will go for the different applications. So I will talk about is a very fundamental thing. Tomorrow plus 2 रे भी तुम पढ़ी थी So maybe we can, if I'm missing out something, we can point out. But more चेष्टा करूँ it is in a summary, in a very short summary. I want to give a introduction to microbiology or microbiology the basics I want to cover so that I'm at the application of what is the library. All right. So, what is a cell? Okay, this is the very first definition you probably study in your class 11th, as you, not in 11th, in your school itself, you study about cell. Okay. So, cell को कहा जाए as the fundamental building block of life. Okay. So, I mean, there is something called living and non-living. Uh, Cell is the most fundamental thing that you can call is living. Uh, okay, and how does the cell differentiate from the non-living thing? So living or non-living is the so how the cell being the fundamental block केमती से अलग अच्छी a non-living entity. First parameter हमें देखो जो how it is different are cells are capable of growth and reproduction. Okay. So it is both self-explanatory. It is, I mean, like they can multiply, they can produce uh, uh, another entity on your cell produce the manufacturing which is identical to them. So this is one thing that is very different about cells. Next, another issue is cells are highly organized, okay, and they highly organized and they selectively restrict what crosses their boundaries. Okay, so even though the environmental someone around you, so they don't allow everything to come inside. They have boundaries. Then they're both organized. Okay. So I mean, ଜାଣିଛୁ cell ର organization basis ଆମେ ଦୁଇଟା categories ଆମର ଅଛି prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay. So how they function again depends upon their organization. They are highly organized, okay, and they do not allow everything to cross their boundaries. So cells are at a low entropy compared to their environment. A entropy તમે પઢିଛନ୍ତି thermodynamics ને second law of thermodynamics we get this term entropy, that is disorder in the system. So they are a lot less disordered than the environment as we are. Okay, uh, so that is the third character. Okay. So second character. Third characteristic summary. So the major elements of which the cells composed are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. So this would be the major elements, particularly living cells that we have. And the last characteristic summary is cells are self-feeding. Okay. So it is not like they have to be, I mean, ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କିଛି କରିବା ଜରୁରୀ, but cells are self-feeding. So they, ସେମାନେ ନିଜେ ତାଙ୍କ environment ରୁ they are able to take the nutrition. So they take not nutrition as such, so they are able to take the required elements, maybe ତାଙ୍କୁ zinc ଦରକାର କି iron ଦରକାର କି any particular elements are required, so they can directly take it up. They can take up electrons, okay, and they can take energy. Okay, they can take energy from the external environment. Okay, they can take it from the external environment to create and maintain themselves. Okay, so in order to grow and reproduce, so they are able to take the nutrition from the surrounding environment. Okay, how the cell obtains elements, energy, and electrons is called as metabolism. ଆଉ ଆମ ଏଇ particular course ରେ ଆମ ଏଇ metabolism କୁ ଆମକୁ ବହୁତ ଭଲରେ ବୁଝିବାକୁ ପଡିବ because ଏଇ metabolism ଯୋଗୁଁ ହିଁ they are able to do something in the environment, ହେଲା, they are able to metabolize. Okay. So this is the introduction to ଆଉ କେତେଟା ଜିନିଷ I just mentioned. So ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଏଠି mention କଲୁ second point ରେ that cells are highly organized. Okay, so when we talk about cells being organized, what are the distinguishing features? If you might calculate the distinguishing features, how does it how is it different from the other cells? So the first characteristic from the cell membrane. What is cell? Cell membrane. cell membrane again, basic ଜିନିଷ, it's a selectively permeable barrier between the cell and its environment. No, it's basically a boundary around the cell. Hmm. आपको cytoplasmic membrane भी कुहाଯାଏ. So it is the structure that enables the cell to restrict what process the boundary. So ଯେମିତି ସବୁ ଗୁଡା ଯାହା ବାହାରେ ଅଛି ସେଟା ଭିତରକୁ ଯେମିତି ନ ଆସେ, it's basically boundary around the cell over there. Okay, in some situations, it also is the site for reaction. Okay, so location for some reaction catalyzed by the cell. ତମେ ଏଟା ବାୟୋକେମିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ପଢିଥିବ କି ତମର କେତେ receptors ଥାଏ cell ଉପରେ. So basically the receptor come into contact with a particular chemical, maybe something, so they trigger one reaction. Okay, so cell membrane is important in that sense. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିପାରିବା is the cell wall. Okay, cell wall is a structural member that confers rigidity and shape. Okay, so mainly in the cell wall, विचार भाबू, especially in plant cells. Okay, so we think about in case of eukaryotes, we think about the cell wall giving the rigidity and shape to the cell. It also protects the cell membrane. Okay, so अच्छा ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିପାରିବା, ଆମେ ଯଦି ଦେଖିବା cell membrane, cell wall. Okay, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା is the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm is most of the inside of the cell. So cell wall ଭିତରେ ରହିଲା ଆମର cytoplasm. It contains matter and the macromolecules. Okay, that the cell needs to function. So cytoplasm ର କାମ ସେଇଟା. Then ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଆମେ ପଢିଥିବା ଆଗରୁ is chromosomes. Okay, so chromosome is a structure of DNA, okay, nucleic acids and protein. So if it is dealing with DNA, RNA, protein, total chromosome. Okay. So structure of DNA and protein that store genetic code for the cell heredity and biochemical function. So not only for growth chromosome data, also for the function. Okay. So for the function, we have the genetic code. जोटा कौन हुए जोटा proteins produce हुए proteins are the actual interaction protein interaction होने with the cell particularly function. So chromosome is important in that sense. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା is the ribosome. Okay? So ribosome are structures consisting of RNA, okay, and proteins that convert genetic code into working catalysts that carry out the cell reaction. So ଆମେ ଯୋଉଟା ବି ଆମ cell ରେ ଆମର pathways of reaction all is possible because of proteins. Okay, and ribosomes ଆମର produce करे particular all of these consist of RNA and protein that control the particular reaction. And last ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଖିବା number 6 is enzymes. Okay, so enzymes again are proteins, okay, that catalyze the necessary biochemical reaction. ଯାହା ବି in a normal situation हम catalyst use करो, in a biological context we have enzymes, protein enzymes. So basically हम जब aerobic treatment or anaerobic treatment विषୟରେ କଥା हवा, we will talk about the enzyme over here. Okay, so I will stop here. If କାହାକୁ କିଛି ପଚାରିବାର ଅଛି, obviously ଏଇଟା କିଛି ନୂଆ topic ମୁଁ କିଛି କହୁନି, but in case if you have to ask any questions about sustainability, ତମେ ମୋତେ ପଚାରି ପାରିବ. So initial first unit what we are doing is having some introductory topics. So self for I will just talk about prokaryotes, eukaryotes, and then we will jump into the biochemical cycles. So ଆଉ କିଛି questions ପଚାରିବାର ଅଛି ତମେ ପଚାରି ପାରିବ, କିଛି ପଚାରିବାର ଅଛି କୋଉ ବିଷୟରେ? Yes, any questions you want to ask? Just our ପାଖରେ 2-3 minutes ଅଛି. So if you have any questions ତମେ ପଚାରି ପାରିବ. Yes, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, Prabhat, thank you. All right, so you can leave this class. ମୁଁ ଯାହା ବି ଆଜି ପଢେଇଛି ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଥରେ ତମକୁ ପଠେଇଦେବି। ତମେ you go through that, କିଛି problem ହେଲେ ମତେ ପଚାରିବ। Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.